that I wanted them to use, which was that this was a malicious prosecution and he was politically motivated to punish me for having made the film, which is exactly what it's all about, the reality of it.
Yeah.
I gave him my defense in writing, and he wouldn't use it. And then I stood up at the end of the hearing and to the judge, and I said, can I present this, my statements to the court? And he said, no, it's, he asked the barrister if what I wanted to say was only my beliefs. And the barrister said yes.
Right.
And they weren't my beliefs. I was actually quoting the law in it.
Right. Okay.
So actually the barrister stitched me up.
Right, your own barrister.
Or it appears that way, yeah.
Right, yeah. And you are trying to find, new legal representation, I believe.
Yeah, but I don't think that I'm going to be able to trust any of them, because they're all members of the bar, the British Accreditation Registry. And so they all have a license from the authorities that are trying to prosecute me. So it looks like I'm going to have to defend myself.
Right. So after that point, then, is that when you were in a cell for then 23 days after that? Is that?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, I
right.
was in a cell.
And so why would they lock you up for 23 days then? Is that because you were waiting to stand trial for another appeal, or just explain that for us?
Well, what happens is that when the judge orders, if he does, when he orders your extradition, they then automatically take you back into custody.
Right.
Because they are then going to send you to the country that's asked for your extradition.
Right. Okay.
And you have 15 days in which to decide whether you wish to appeal or not.
Right, I see. And your barrister actually recommended that you shouldn't appeal, didn't he?
Yeah, he told me that that the judge would absolutely not give me bail. Okay, because supporters from this Friends of Muad'Dib site and supporters of mine from all around the world, they had asked them to send copies of the film to the judges at the court, trying to get them to show that they were in agreement with what I did, that public opinion was on my side, and that they all know that what I did was the right thing to do, that I did absolutely nothing wrong. So in solidarity with me, they were sending copies of the DVD to the judge. And copies of the DVD that in court he had already said that he would watch. Right, so they weren't doing anything wrong. They were sending him copies of a film he'd already said he was going to watch.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So anyway, when he gave his verdict, he said that these people had sent him copies of the DVD and that they shouldn't have done that and all the rest of it, and he ordered my extradition. I was then taken into custody and taken back to the prison. Okay, and then the barrister came to see me, and he said on the strength of the fact that the judge was upset because these people had sent copies of the DVD to the judge, and I hadn't asked anybody to do anything of the kind. Okay, it had nothing to do with me, so I was an innocent victim of that situation. Now, I don't disagree with what they did, because they did what they felt was right.
Yes.
They're acting on their conscience, and God is their conscience. People think that the conscience is part of them. It's not actually. It's actually God speaking to them telepathically, telling them what's right and what's wrong. So when they are acting according to their conscience, they're obeying God's will.
Okay.
Which everyone should do, because if everybody did that, the world would be a very nice place.
Okay.
But anyway, the barrister came to see me in prison and told me that I absolutely would not, he was absolutely certain that I would not get bail for an appeal. And he also told me that I had absolutely no grounds to appeal on. Okay, and he said that the best thing I could do was to accept to be extradited to the UK and get it over with. So I gave him in writing, I said that, I wanted him to appeal, and I gave him the grounds on which he was to appeal, and told him to apply for bail. So, anyway, he didn't want to do that, but I insisted to give him in writing that he did. So anyway, eventually he did file the papers. It took quite a while because it was over the Easter period, and the courts were closed in recess.
Right.
So that's why I had to spend 23 days.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah.
Yes. So I mean, it's just disgusting, really.
Yeah, absolutely. For doing, for doing what is right.
Yeah.
I'm being punished.
Yeah.
Which often happens, as you know.
So
no good deed. They have an expression: no good deed goes unpunished, and no bad deed goes unrewarded.
Right.
And I mean that. I fit into that category.
Yes. Okay. Well.
So anyway, we then had the appeal hearing, or sorry, not the appeal hearing, the hearing for bail. You can't ask for bail until you've lodged your appeal, and then once you've filed the appeal, then you can apply for bail. And so at the bail hearing, I had the same judge again, and anyway, he gave me bail, which proved that the barrister was absolutely wrong.
Right. Okay.
And he also said that there were serious issues that needed to be looked at, and so he passed it to the Supreme Court. So the barrister was wrong on both counts. He was wrong on the fact that I wouldn't get bail, and he was wrong on the fact that I didn't have grounds for appeal. So anyway, he gave me bail. And then I asked for copies of everything that had been submitted to the court from the barrister, from the legal team. And because I wanted to check that they had appealed on the grounds that I had given them in writing that they were supposed to appeal on. Well, they didn't send me the papers I asked for almost a year.
Right.
And when I got them, it's difficult to say how I felt. I was shocked, but not, if you know what I mean. I was half expecting them to have not done what I asked them to do, again, because they didn't do it the first time.
Right, okay.
So I got the papers and saw that the appeals that they'd, the points that they'd appealed on were not the points that I'd asked them to appeal on.
Right.
They were good points, but they were not the ones that I asked them to appeal on. Now, what they should have done was to use the points that I'd asked them to appeal on and add their own these other ones as well to make it a more solid case.
Yes.
But they hadn't done that. So then I had to have a meeting with them, and I managed to borrow a computer and wrote out what I wanted the case to be appealed on.
So they still got your computer then? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah.
So you never got your computer? You never got your computer back then?
No, I haven't got any of the stuff back.
Right, okay.
And they even took my. You see, what they wanted to do, the UK authorities, was to prevent me from being able to defend myself. So they took my computers.
Right.
And they took my printer. Now, in the arrest warrant, it says that the DVDs were handwritten and the envelopes were handwritten. Okay? And there was no other correspondence.
Right.
So what legitimate reason could they have for taking my printer?
Yeah.
None. Okay? But they took my computers and they took my printer to prevent me from being able to defend myself.
Okay.
Because all my information is on the computer, and I need the printer in order to draw up the documents and to print things out to present to the court.
Right.
So they took all of that to hamstring me, to try and make it impossible for me to defend myself. So I had to rely on the barrister.
Right.
And I'm not sure whether the barrister is working for me or them.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to email me anything, I'll quite happy to print it out for you and to stick it in the post.
Thank you very much, Richard. That's very kind of you.
Okay.
So anyway, I had a meeting then with. I demanded to have a meeting with the barrister and the solicitor, and we had a meeting. And I told them I wasn't happy with the situation, and that I would draw up my submissions to the Supreme Court, and I would give them to them, and I wanted them then to replace what they put in with what I wanted and what I'd asked them originally in writing to fight the case on. And so I drew up the submissions and sent them to them. And they said that they can't do that now. They can't fight them on what I want them to fight on.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, basically what they're saying is they can't go into court and tell the truth.
Right, okay.
So we're parting company,
Right.
and that's the situation at the moment, and it's looking as though I'm going to have to defend myself. But I know I can trust me.
Yes, yes. I mean, I would, just for my own feelings on it, I would proceed with the assumption that you are going to defend yourself and basically educate yourself as fully as you can, you know, in these areas.
Yeah.
But I would also, you know, try and find, at the same time, you know, to try and find a barrister who will represent you properly and correctly.
Yeah.
So, you know, if there is anybody listening or watching who is a barrister in Ireland who feels that they can help Muad'Dib, then get in touch with him.
Thank you very much.
Now, so you're now waiting for the Supreme Court hearing on your extradition appeal.
To hear the appeal.
The appeal, right? And you
Yeah.
haven't got a date for that yet, then?
Not yet.
I think you know roughly, don't you? You think it might be next year, then? Is it like?
I'm not sure, because they brought out with the EU, since the Lisbon Treaty's been signed.
Mm-hmm.
They brought out new legislation, so I think things are being speeded up. So I'm not sure that it will be next year.
Right.
It may be later this year.
Okay. Okay. And just to, you know, if the worst happened and you got extradited and were found guilty, you know, it's a long sentence for perversion of the course of justice, isn't it? Potentially. I mean, I'm not trying to put the downers on it.
No, well, we have to be realistic, and the fact that they want to punish me for making the film, which is what it's really all about. It's not about what I did, because I didn't do any harm, because the DVDs never made it to the jury or even to the judge. So I didn't do any harm. It's not about that. It's about punishing me because I had the audacity to make the film and put forward, you know, another view of what actually went off, which most people believe to be the truth.
And let's just.
But to tell you that on the arrest warrant it says that this charge carries a possible life sentence with a maximum of 20 years in prison. So it's a very serious situation.
Okay, then. Well, let's just go back to the terrorism aspect and the broader significance, because the 7/7 atrocity is just it's just one part of their terror campaign. What do you think is the overall agenda? I mean, obviously it's so that they can take over bases in the Caspian Sea region and Afghanistan and Iraq, but do you think that they're planning a world war? Do you know, by involving Iran and China, and as a lot of people believe?
Well, yes. I mean, that's all prophesied in the Bible. So they're working towards that agenda, whether they're doing it knowingly or unknowingly. But that's the way it is headed. It is headed towards World War III. In the book of Revelations, which is the last book in the Bible, it talks about the three last woes and then describes them. And it's the seven angels, and the first four